Okay, welcome back to another episode of Witcher Season 2 discussion. This time, it's a controversial moment. I'm not sure anyone's a big fan of this. I don't think I've spoken to anyone that liked this part of it, but we definitely do have some differing opinions on the matter on the panel. We're talking about Eskel and what on earth happened. Of course, spoilers ahead, no doubt about it. Eskel in Witcher Season 2, how he was portrayed, how he ended up. We're going to get into all of that. So first and foremost is just by a show of hands, maybe, did you enjoy what they did with Eskel overall? Put your hand up if you liked it.
I've enjoyed people's reactions to it.
Yeah.
Go on,
because
Fox.
we'll get into it. But yeah, I did not like it, of course not, but I enjoyed the reaction to it.
Okay, bro.
Yeah.
So, obviously, if you're not familiar with what's happened exactly, Eskel, who is prominently featured within Witcher 3 as a very wholesome, loving bloke, despite him having a scar on his face and maybe looking quite intimidating, he is a really nice guy, has quite a good relationship with Ciri from the intro scene in Witcher 3 and then later on as well. So definitely lots of Witcher 3 fans were expecting to see Eskel feature quite heavily within this, but he was killed off quite early in quite unceremonious fashion. And what we did see of Eskel, he wasn't exactly the nicest guy that you might expect to see. There was one scene where he sort of showed Ciri her room, and there was this ominous music playing in the background, making him seem like he might have some dodgy things that he might be planning to do to Ciri. What did you guys think about that moment?
Horrible. Yeah, horrible, yeah. It seemed really out of place. I was confused by this whole thing because I was thinking that I would get these vibes from Lambert. So then that was the exact scene I was going to mention, Specie, is when he shows Ciri her room. The music and the whole atmosphere felt weird, as if he was a threat to her. And obviously you go on to find out that he is, but when at this point you don't know that he's been infected or any of this, and I thought he was meant to be kind of a more welcoming Witcher to her. So yeah, I was confused by it, and the funniest thing I find about this is that I saw loads online about people being unhappy with the casting for Eskel, and he was just gone within one episode, so it didn't really matter.
Yeah, I actually just watched earlier an interview from the premiere, and Eskel is there with Lambert and Cohen, and Eskel's just sort of yeah, cool. He didn't seem too impressed, and Cohen sort of said something. It was yeah, and Eskel, well, we won't talk about Eskel. It just seemed like there was even amongst those three this awareness that maybe it might not be the most popular thing. Also, before that scene, or perhaps after, but certainly in the episode Eskel featured, he had this big party at Kaer Morhen where he summoned the bitches, which of course is one of his famous lines from Witcher 3, so that's quite nice that he managed to do that. But at the same time, that was probably, as I mentioned before, one of my least favourite moments, having this big party at Kaer Morhen. What do you guys think of that decision?
Absurd.
Go on, what did you not like about it, Ina?
And here comes a little bit maybe the lore frogs per se in myself, because a party, first Witchers partying there was no tomorrow, that can happen, but it's not super common. And then second, they inviting outsiders that to the fortress in Kaer Morhen. It's not so common, or doesn't fit so well either, and especially ladies of the night, right? So I didn't like that. I didn't like his vibe, and even before. Emphasize that it was even before that vibe came even before he was by the series door room. It was even when they were all sitting by the table and he shows up at the very first time, and he walks towards her, stops, and gives her a very, very weird look. And I was like, okay, this doesn't give me a good vibe. And then it just got worse and worse. the part of the party specifically, also we could see how much of an abusive guy he was towards one of the prostitutes as well. And Geralt was talking about Ciri, and one of the things that he said, if I would bring a princess to Kaer Morhen with me, the last thing I would beat would be like some gentleman or some knight or something like that. Well, he grabs in a really, aggressive way the woman, and yeah, I don't know, it gave me very bad feelings the whole episode.
Fox, I know you've got quite a lot to say about Eskel, so head over to you.
Well, yeah, the thing about it is the whole bringing summoning the bitches, God, the whole bringing the women there. I don't care as much about the book lore because this is a show, whatever. But to me, and I spoke about this with Abu, my co-host on Wind's Howling, is it seemed to almost violate the show canon. As the previous episode, Ciri's like, hey, I've never heard of Kaer Morhen. And Geralt basically says, well, I got attacked, and we kind of like to keep it that way. And what we've known from Kaer Morhen is it's this refuge. It's this winter refuge. We got it from Nightmare of the Wolf, so we got it from the show universe canon, if you will. Definitely got that from the books, that this is where the Witchers go for a safe winter. It's where to kind of get that camaraderie again. And a big change too that I didn't really care for also is there were 6, 8, 10 other Witchers there that weren't there in the books, and so you didn't get this tight little 5-person little Witcher community that you got from the books. And also, to probably chuff more people wrong, Eskel was the first person that greeted Geralt and Ciri when they arrived at Kaer Morhen. So this is the first Witcher she got to see other than Geralt, and she's horrified by his look because nobody has done what they describe as the scar, the disfigurement. Yeah, it's the same thing too in The Witcher 3 with Ciri. Like they made her, they put this little scar down there, and it's like, no, she is, she's screwed up. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But no, I just the Witchers as a whole. I know I mentioned that on a previous episode. That just the Witchers as a whole, it missed me. Kaer Morhen as a whole, it just didn't feel like this kind of real chill atmosphere, this loving atmosphere. And another thing too with like Lambert is a prick. Lambert is not a mean asshole. He's a mean asshole to Triss, but they kind of have a little history. But yeah, Lambert isn't just some jerk. He's short temper, I guess you want to say. He gets frustrated, but they're all nice to Ciri. They all train her. They all take her on as their own. And I don't know, again, I just think a lot of this goes back to how people see them in The Witcher 3 and how fleshed out they were in The Witcher 3. Because those Witchers in Kaer Morhen are in chapters 1, 2, and 3 of Blood of Elves, and they're never heard from or seen again. As a matter of fact, Eskel is mentioned once in the next book, Time of Contempt. He's not mentioned at all in Baptism of Fire. He's mentioned one time in Tower of Swallows, and then he's mentioned several times in the last one, but it's all in a Ciri vision. It's in a Yen flashback, and then at the very end of the books, when something's happening with Geralt, it's kind of something he sees, this vision, this memory, if you will, of Kaer Morhen. So Eskel never comes back. I understand people being upset about it because they love The Witcher 3. But Eskel is an insignificant character that does not do anything and adds nothing outside of him training Ciri. And so I know, Ina, this is something for you because I know you said he's your favorite. And so is it just something from there? Because then it's fine if people, they don't like these certain characters, something that happens to the ones that they like. But the people that are saying, I saw this one thing where someone's like, oh, Eskel plays a huge role in the books. And I'm like, that is just objectively wrong. He is so insignificant. And so that's true. Yeah, and so, and again, I know you'll say, I know that you've said that he's your favorite. And so is it just pretty much from that he was your favorite Witcher, like demeanor-wise?
Well, it was, as I said before, I got into the Witcher universe, although I consumed almost pretty much all of it in a little bit more than 1 year ago. And I started precisely from Witcher 3. And that was, first, he has like that super deep voice that I have a soft spot for. Not gonna lie. And I think he's like, from all of them, he's the most like down-to-earth guy. And he's a gentleman as well. Like there is like a very small detail from The Witcher 3 that Yennefer got her dress dirty with vomit, and he's reluctant to approach her to just do such a simple thing such as clean up her dress, because first her man is in front and it's like, come on, we are friends, but I don't want to be too touchy and stuff like that. And most of the guys probably would even care about that. But I always like the Eskel personality very, very, very much. But it's mostly because of The Witcher 3, because of course in the books, you, besides that first part that is quite impactant for Ciri, because, well, who the hell is this, like, sort of demon with half of the face disfigured and with such a deep, scary voice? But yeah, it's mostly because of the Witcher 3 game.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up his personality in The Witcher 3, because he doesn't really have one in the books, because he's not fleshed out at all. Like I said, I read through it last night, and I'm looking through this Eskel stuff. I'm like, okay, what's he doing? You get something from Lambert because him and Triss go at it. Vesemir, you get it because he's the father figure. Cohen, even too. Cohen's just kind of there as well. But, you know, we've known that Eskel is Geralt's kind of like oldest friend, if you will. And it's just, there's just nothing there from the books. And I was hoping that they would do more, that they would really flesh out the Witchers. They just fleshed them out in a way that I just didn't really like in the show.
So do you think that Netflix have possibly taken this as an opportunity to be like, to give like a shock factor, to like kill off a character that they know a lot of people are going to love, so it's going to cause a lot of shock, but they also know that there's nothing for them to really grab from the books to go further with?
Yeah, I think it was probably, like, as you say, I almost wonder if it was like, okay, we could kill any of these random witches, or we could kill Eskel, who, like, a lot of our audience will be familiar with. It's this shock factor, but also he is a more important Witcher than the rest. So the fact that he died, it did at least develop, you know, Geralt and Vesemir, and deepen their sort of like our understanding of those characters as the season went on. However, I just don't particularly think it was necessary to kill him and make him this douchebag really at the same time. And I understand they wanted like this feeling of Kaer Morhen for Ciri to feel like a little bit, you know, from Ciri's perspective, like a little bit alarming. Like maybe Eskel's comment that he made actually didn't mean anything, but certainly from the viewer's perspective, it was quite creepy and made us feel like a little bit worried for Ciri. And it's an interesting one, as you mentioned. Like if he's not in the books, he's fair game, you could argue. But there certainly was an opportunity maybe to develop the character of Eskel. But yeah, as you say, at least it was a talking point. It was a shock factor. And I guess we should also just talk about what the hell happened to Eskel. What was your feelings of him turning into some sort of like mini Leshy, as they called it?
Okay, well, so oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say I have a very, very short statement for this. It's like that first introduction to him, to his personality, was already shocking and revolting enough for me. So I don't mind at all that they kill him. Like kill it before it lays eggs, literally. So yeah.
Okay, so I was gonna ask y'all this. It's funny you led into this question. What do y'all think would have been? Did people more have an issue with that Eskel was killed, or how he was killed? So let's just say Leshy would have attacked Kaer Morhen, and when they're fighting it, it just kills Eskel. Would people still have been that upset that Eskel was killed, or was it just he got turned into this mutant tree?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the fact, as I say, the fact he died, but also the part before it, it was a weird way for him to go, wasn't it? Like he had like a little growth on him that you saw, and in the making of episode as well, they said that changes the way that he behaves. But of course, that's the only time we see him in the show, so we don't, you know, for all we know, and you know, from our perspective, and pretty much as just the show would suggest, that is just what he's like, and this hasn't impacted his personality. Just because they've said that in the making of episode doesn't really change that, in my opinion. So I personally didn't really love the way he went. It was, you know, just to have like this big exciting end to episode, I think episode 2. It was pretty anticlimactic. We just sort of got introduced to him and then he's gone pretty much, and there wasn't really much feeling of emotion of Geralt having to stab him or anything like that. It just sort of happened, you know, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I think some people who loved his character in the game probably feel like almost betrayed, like they've had that character almost like stolen from them, because they wanted him to be the, like you say, you know, the warm sort of welcoming character that they had in the game, and he just wasn't that at all. So even if we had have got the character we expected from the game, who then just got killed by a Leshy, he died protecting Kaer Morhen, that would have, I don't think people would have been as upset with that, but it was that, I think people were upset that he was just not who they expected, and then also he's gone within the episode.
Yeah, there is also a quick meme just before Fox continues I did want to show everyone, which was posted on the Gwent subreddit. Within Gwent the Witcher card game, there's a Witcher trio where you play Lambert or Vesemir or Eskel, and the others are summoned from the deck. And it's been fixed by this person here by putting the Woodland Spirit, the Leshy, in Eskel's place. It's probably my favourite meme I've seen from the Witcher subreddit, the Gwent subreddit, in quite a few years. So Fox, you were going to touch on something, yeah.
Well, I was going to say, isn't there someone who keeps making a Witcher card until they do Renfrey? I keep seeing aspects of that. So yeah, I guess it's only a matter of time before they do Escaleshi.
No,
right
please,
there.
no.
I mean, I think it's a given.
No,
Somebody's gonna do it. Somebody out there, go
No.
get your dumb free karma. Make an Escaleshi card. Yeah. So one of the things I know I mentioned before, Scheherazade being left out and the wagon train attack being what I wanted in the most. The thing also about Kaer Morhen is, and the massive thing they cut out, is Triss isn't here. What happens is Ciri's training with the Witchers a lot, but they're like feeding her kind of these weird mushrooms that are kind of messing with her, because they're not going to give her the trial, but they're giving her stuff to kind of change her a little bit, and she starts freaking out. She starts having all these sorts of the power and all that. They're like, we need help. They call Triss in. Triss goes to Kaer Morhen, and you get these couple of chapters where it's just Triss and it's all the Witcher bros, and you get a lot of backstory from that, but you really start to flesh out again these characters, and it's right off the bat. It fleshes out Trish a little bit, but mainly it gets this relationship of Geralt and Ciri and what they need to do. And Ciri's a petulant, spoiled little princess, and they're pretty much trying to change her to make her into this Witcher. And I know they don't have a lot of time, it's only 8 episodes, but in this episode, Ciri doesn't even start training until the very end of the episode. And she was at Kaer Morhen this whole time. And instead of the, was it 15 minutes maybe where they fight at the end? Something like that? 15, 20 minutes, whatever it is. Instead of having that fight, which again, I just think that's some executive saying, we need a fight, we need a monster. Ooh, a Leshy at Kaer Morhen, look at all this stuff. It'll look really cool, blah, blah, blah. That's when you can have that training that could have started. And then you get Geralt and Ciri and their bond. And then we get to see Vesemir and Geralt and their bond. Because right now, the only reason I think that Vesemir was a mentor to Geralt from the show is because Nightmare of the Wolf told me, and then this was just like, hey, we've been here. Oh, you were like a mentor, Dagmar, or whatever the guy's name from Nightmare. They show his armor.
Deglin, yeah.
The episode Deglin, there you go. It's like, oh, it's a father figure like Geralt to me. Yeah, and I'm like, okay, they're just bopping us over the head because they don't have enough time to actually get that out in any kind of actual dialogue. And it's just stuff like that where cut that part of the action, put in this human elements, and even if you don't have Triss there, which is fine, I get that it'd be hard to kind of split that time, but it's just that stuff that they need. Slow it down, get those character moments, and trust the audience to enjoy that and not need the keys jangled in front of them to have this monster fight every episode.
Okay, there is a conspiracy theory. Not a very good one, but there is a conspiracy theory that Eskel is going to return. Because he's not in fact dead, it was a Doppler. Thoughts?
I mean, from what we've spoken about, I get why people are saying this and they're hopeful, because Eskel obviously wasn't acting how we would expect him to. First of all, he brings all the women to Kaer Morhen, which is obviously a big no-no, seems out of character, and then he wasn't sure how to kill the Leshen, which we said was out of character as well. So I guess that's what people are grasping at here in hope that it wasn't actually him. But I don't know if that's going to be a legit or not. I did see Lauren Hisrick tweet earlier. She's great for replying to people's tweets. And somebody was mentioning how the guy at the dock who sort of takes the mick out of the writers, as such, he's saying, oh, I didn't even realize until verse 4 that it was a different timeline. She said something about how she was already trying to write in something to season 3 about the Eskel situation. So she's obviously reading everyone's thoughts on it, and maybe second guessing herself.
Is there anything anyone else wanted to discuss on Eskel or the Doppler conspiracy? So I have recently
cut my mic on that.
I have recently been reading one of the short stories which features Dudu, and within the books, it is mentioned that Dopplers, when they change, when they transform into someone, they get their thoughts, their feelings, they think and talk the way that person would. So for Eskel to just suddenly have this change of character because it's a Doppler wouldn't actually make sense, at least with the canon, the book's canon. And also then you would expect that when Eskel died, that it would return, to the Doppler. So I think it's a pretty weak theory. And just like the other thing to mention with Eskel, the thing I think didn't sit particularly well with me was he died for this Leshy, and then you see the Leshy, and this flipping random Scorpion Vi, as people in chat were calling it, which is a card in the Witcher universe,
Myriapod.
just comes and yeets it. So that was a bit of a weird one as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was the Myriapod, which I guess that was going to be like their big monster of the season or something. It was in a lot of promotions for it.
Right.
And I guess that was to be like, oh, you thought this thing was badass here. It's like Jurassic Park, I guess, or Jurassic World, where they have the big dinosaur and then another one comes in. Just an easy way to say, okay, this is the big bear right here.
I was so ready for the Leshy fight.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, oh, okay, I'm ready for this. Like, we've seen this in the trailer, and then all of a sudden it's gone. So yeah, I know what you mean. It's a bit of a letdown.
Yes. Especially as Eskel died for that as well,
Yeah.
He died so the Myriapod could live.
And plus, regards the Doppler theory, what it seems to me is that each season they are trying to explore like different kinds of creatures, and you already have a huge reference or a huge highlight on a Doppler on season 1. So I don't believe it will make much sense to bring it back on season 3. So that's why I'm kind of skeptical about that. And even if they would bring Eskel back, like how would they do that, like without looking awkward or something? So
yeah, the Myriapod fight as well was quite a weird one. It just came and just completely crushed the woodland spirit and or the Leshy. And then Geralt just dealt with it rather easily as well. Ciri was like trapped in a corner, and then like one sword swipe later, it was gone. It was quite anticlimactic, and it's just like something else to touch on as well, because they did it in the finale as well. We're introducing these new monsters that are like, it's almost like the writers like trying to like, I felt like have their stamp. Like, we've got all these cool monsters, like we've got whole games and books dedicated to these awesome monsters. Why do we need to like try and like, oh, this monster's even cooler than the one Like, it just seemed like quite unnecessary, like when we've got like so many monsters that we've never seen within the Witch universe already.
Yeah, I mean, they can't use the CDPR ones unless they've agreed to do it, because that's their own intellectual property. So I don't know how all that's working, that they are kind of connected now, so maybe they'll be a little bit more connected, and I don't know, we'll get a Bloody Baron or something along those lines. But yeah, I don't know. It was easier to say the disconnect between the games and the show, but now they are kind of together on these things. So I don't know. Yeah, that's really not helping people, I bet.
Is there anything else anyone wanted to touch on Eskel? Cool. Okay, so that's our thoughts on Eskel. Let us know in the comments below what you think. Is he going to return? Probably not. Also, just to shout out, my 3 guests here do have their own Twitch channels, as well as some YouTube channels and podcasts. In particular, there's an On the Path podcast, which relates to The Witcher 3. And also, Fox is part of the Witcher podcast as well, which focuses more on just general Witcher stuff. And I'm sure there's going to be lots more content related to season 2 of the Netflix series. So make sure you check all that out. Thanks so much for watching the video, and make sure you see some of the other videos where we've talked about all sorts of other things. And yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you. Oh, okay. Are we done? Is everyone good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Hour and 45. That was a great effort. Again, if there's like after Christmas, I guess, because I'll just like be releasing these like sporadically through Christmas. If you guys wanted to do another one, and yes, chat.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Chat. Go follow everyone on Twitch, YouTube, and also at Fox. Do you want to link podcasts and that? Because I don't think we had a command for that. Here. So Lucy, you have recently been playing Gwent as well, right?
Yes, I'm getting there. I've started. I maybe done like 2 streams. Yeah, so Fox coached me through my first stream. which I was incredibly grateful for because it was so overwhelming. But yeah, I've played a few times since then.
I take a little bit of guilt on that because since Lucy discovered that I started to stream and we started to interact with each other, I was like, have you tried Gwent? Have you tried Gwent? You should, but
yeah, it took me ages because I didn't have a computer good enough to play it, so it took me ages to get involved. But I'm really enjoying it. I feel like I was trying to compare it to The Witcher 3 Gwent quite a lot because I remember when I first played The Witcher 3 Gwent, I did not have a clue what was going on. And when you stick at it, you obviously learn and you get used to it. So that's what I kept telling myself when I opened Gwent, the Witcher card game, that it's overwhelming now, but I will get there, and I'm slowly getting there. But I've still got a lot to learn.
What rank are you at? Do you remember?
Oh, I don't remember.
Okay.
It goes down, right?
Yeah, down is better.
Okay, I don't remember. I'll double check.
Okay.
And Ina, you've been streaming Gwent recently, and you've got a YouTube channel, which I've just
plugged.
Yes,
I do have a YouTube channel. After getting so many people saying you should cut your clips, your VODs, and do some content, yada yada, I finally got into it. And I'm really enjoying. I really enjoy the process of editing, which is surprising for me. Which some of you know me as the grandma because I'm quite old-fashioned and I don't get along so easily with the technology, software, and stuff. But yeah, recently, the last 3 days, I haven't been streaming at all, unfortunately, because I'm gonna go to visit my family in Portugal. I live in Latvia, and during 10 days, so it's gonna be more 10 days without streaming, but I'll be back to it for sure. I'll probably play a little bit of stream, but yeah, Gwent is my main game at the moment, for sure.
Bang. And Foxy, you've also got a Twitch channel where you play Gwent, you play some Red Dead, a little bit of New World. Have you played that recently, by the way?
I finished up Red Dead. New World's not in the best place.
No.
But yeah, it's mainly just Gwent, and the two things are I get drunk and play Camby. That's it. That's the selling point.
Nice.
Yeah, I did my second variety stream the other day because I tried Skyrim in the very beginning because it was a game that I was super comfortable with, but I started Red Dead Redemption. I already got a hint of a spoiler from you, Foxy, but it's okay. It's fine, but I'm really enjoying it. Yep.
Yeah, it's a hell of a game.
Bro, and Witcher podcast, Foxy and Lucy.
Yeah, so the one on the path is the one that I co-host with Lucy, who's right there. We're doing this season 2 right now. We're gonna have some guests on it. We're basically at the beginning of The Witcher 3. I think we're right at Wandering in the Dark, where you meet Kira. I was about to say Triss, where you meet Kira. Older episodes of that are when I did it over the books by myself. So there's a long time ago, and I sound like shit, but it's a little bit different then. And then I do another one called Winds Howling, which is part of the Lower Party Podcast Network, and we pretty much just cover the show. Some older episodes there are about the games as well. We covered Hearts of Stone. We talked about lore behind Nilfgaard. I think one was over Scoia'tael. And so, yeah, with those, basically, I've got my hand all over The Witcher.
Bang. And also, just to chat, thank you very much for hanging out. I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun. Oh, Rashid's here. Oh, that's unfortunate. It was going so well.